Good morning, everyone. Well, good morning, LA time. Good morning, East Coast time, and who is ever in between the two coasts. Happy Saturday, and thank you all for taking time out on your weekend to participate in our first ever event for the Conscious Black Beauty Movement. My name is Rhonda Smith. You can go to the next slide. I'm Rhonda Smith. I'm the Executive Director of the California Black Health Network. We are hosting this webinar today to share some very important information with you about the importance of non-toxic Black beauty products and what health effects are linked to certain chemicals that are in hair and personal care products that are frequently used by Black women and girls. And so we chose to do this webinar around this time as we are heading towards National Crown Act Day, which is actually on July 3rd. So we're shy of 2 weeks of being away from that day, but we really want to take a moment to celebrate our hair, ourselves, our lives, our bodies, our health, and all of that today. So let's get started and go to the next slide. So since we have quite a few people on the webinar and we are trying to get a lot accomplished in a very short period of time, we still would like to meet you and know who you are and where you're from. So if you could take a moment, drop your name in the chat, tell us where you're signing in from today and what your favorite hair and skincare products are that you use on a daily basis. Just wanted to also note while you're doing that, because this is a webinar, everyone will remain off camera and unmiked. And if you have any questions, please drop them in the Q&A box. If you recognize someone's name in the chat, you want to give a shout out or share some things and thoughts in the chat during the duration of the webinar, please feel free to do so. But please try to put your questions in the Q&A box whenever you have a thought, but there will be time reserved to ask questions of the brand owners and of the speakers today. So let's see where we've got. We've got people from LA. We've got people from, let's see. I'm seeing a lot of California folks. I know we have some folks who registered from the East Coast. I know we had some folks who registered from places outside of the country. But thank you again, no matter where in the world or the country you are logging in from today. So we can go to the next slide. So just a quick run through the agenda so that you know what's in store and what's ahead for us for the next couple of hours or so. So I'll talk about the California Black Health Network for the benefit of those who may not be familiar with the organization. And we'll talk about the Conscious Black Beauty Project that we're working on, or I should say Conscious Black Beauty Movement, and what that is all about and what our plans are and how you can get engaged in the movement and why this movement really is so important for our community. And then we'll have a section to really spread the beauty truth. What's the truth and facts about beauty products and personal care products that we use every day? So we have quite a good lineup of speakers who will share their expertise and engage in an interactive conversation with brand owners to help us understand better what are some of the healthier, safer choices out there for us to use and choose from on a day-to-day basis. And then as part of the work that we're doing with the Conscious Black Beauty Movement, we do want to make sure that everybody's able to incorporate their voice in this movement and part of the work that we do. So we'll talk about advocacy and what that is and what that looks like, especially in the context of beauty justice. But I would be remiss if I didn't talk about it also in the context of what's happening in the bigger realm of our lives every day and what is happening at the federal level with looming budget cuts and how that could potentially impact us, not only as a country, not only as a state of California, but for us in our communities when it comes to access to healthcare and access to services that really supply and provide for our basic needs. So it's going to be really critically important that we understand that we do have a voice. Our voice does count. Our voice does matter. Our vote does matter and count. And we can exercise our right to vote and really change things through the power of amplifying our voice and exercising our right to vote. So just wanted to give that plug in there. The next slide, please. So why are we here today? So we really want to build awareness and provide education around the conscious Black beauty movement, of course, but also around clean beauty and what that really is, and safer beauty products. Part of the work that we do with the California Black Health Network is try to address the root causes of health disparities and health inequities. And so for me, this is part of doing that. If we know what health risks are linked to the products that we take for granted and use on a daily basis, but never think about how they could be harming us in some way or impacting our health, I think it's important to be aware of that. We also want to cultivate a network of clean beauty advocates. That's everybody on this webinar today can and has the power to become an advocate for whatever you're passionate about. And also uplift some of the clean beauty brand owners. So we'll hear their personal stories and journey for how they came to actually be a brand owner and their success and progress that they've been making along the way. And then also encourage the Black community and specifically women and girls to make safer, cleaner choices on a daily basis for themselves and their families and loved ones. Next slide. And so I'll just spend a couple of minutes talking about the California Black Health Network, who we are and what we do and what we're all about. And next slide, please. So we are a statewide organization that works to advance health equity for all Black Californians. We are the only, I would say, Black-led statewide organization that works to advance health equity and do that for all Black Californians. That's African Americans as well as immigrants. We conduct outreach, education, and advocacy and policy work, as well as programmatic work to achieve health equity for our community across California. And we do that through the lens of understanding what the critical issues are that lie at the intersection of racial justice, social justice, and environmental justice. And we believe that kind of what is happening in this space is a social justice as well as an environmental and beauty justice issue for our community. So next slide, please. And our vision, which was really born out of what was happening in the summer of 2020 with the George Floyd murder, the Black Lives Matter movement really coming more to the forefront, as well as the impact of COVID. And in California, that particular summer, there was an abundance of wildfires. And so we really wanted to tap into all of that and set a vision and course and direction for the organization to address those issues and really aspire to achieve a state where every African American and Black immigrant has the opportunity to live long, healthy lives that's free from violence, racism, and health inequities. And I think that vision is also very pertinent and relevant today, considering, again, what may potentially happen next week with the Senate vote and potential budget cuts. Our mission and what we do and how we work every day is really to ensure that all Black Californians, I say regardless of how well educated they are, what their socioeconomic class is, where they live, who they love, how they identify, whatever their housing or immigration status, or wherever they're from, really has access to high quality and equitable primary as well as behavioral health care, and definitely avoid unnecessarily succumbing to diseases, and especially those diseases that are preventable. So next slide. And so I will turn it over to Sylvie Wilson, who's our program coordinator at the California Black Health Network, to talk to you more about what the Conscious Black Beauty Movement is all about and where we're headed with that. So take it over, Sylvie.
Awesome. Thank you, Rhonda. Hi, everybody. It's so nice to, share the space with you. I'm Sylvie. I'm the program and evaluation coordinator here at CBHN. And like Rhonda said, I'm going to walk you kind of through where we're at with the Conscious Black Beauty Movement and where we're hoping to go. So, as alluded to by Rhonda, there is an issue facing Black women and girls. And the issue is that compared with white women, Black women and other women of color are overexposed to toxic chemicals on a daily basis, independent of socioeconomic status, and have higher levels of beauty product related hormone disrupting chemicals in their bodies. So, as noted here, some of these exposures are environmental, like outdoors, where you live, where you go, where you play, and some are directly related to the products that are used and put on our bodies. So, CBHN has been working to pack this idea and share this information with the Black community, women and girls, for the last few years. This is a kind of roadmap of how we got to where we are and what we've been up to in this space. In 2023, we began this work in partnership with breast cancer prevention partners to uplift the Non-Toxic Black Beauty Project and database, which is a database full of um, clean beauty brands owned by Black women that have been vetted by breast cancer prevention partners. That way, consumers can find them easily. And for that, we also engage in a train the trainer event to share this information and help cultivate the same goals as today to make sure that people have access to this information and the capacity to make safer choices. In 2024, we also partner with the California Department of Public Health as a community-based organization to end mercury in skin creams, seek out mercury in skin creams, and share with our community members about the dangers of using mercury in skincare products, which culminated in an event with Africa House in San Francisco, or rather Sacramento. We also, in 2024, began conducting academic research with Cal Berkeley and the Sequoia Foundation, both pertaining to the risks of harmful chemicals found in feminine hygiene products, and another study surrounding plasma and the chemicals found in second trimester mothers or birthing people. And now in 2025, we're starting to really fund and build out the Conscious Black Beauty movement as we received funding from the Rose Foundation to launch the movement, which includes building out partnerships with beauty professionals and influencers. So throughout all of this, hosting Train the Trainer events and community events has been at the forefront of our work, and we really aim to help people understand the impacts of harmful chemicals on their long-term and short-term health. So our goal of the Conscious Black Beauty movement is to catalyze manufacturers to remove toxic ingredients from these products, resulting in lower toxic exposure and better health outcomes for Black women and girls. And our mission is to empower all Black women and girls to lead healthy lives, freed from harmful effects of toxic chemicals in beauty and personal care products. So our work is guided by these four pillars, each that informs a different arm of the movement. First, awareness, which is building the promotion and engagement with our community members to share what we're up to and what we're doing. Education as well kind of goes hand in hand with awareness, sharing the why behind each of our events and the why behind clean beauty, making it accessible to people across California and across the nation in different community spaces and places. We also, as I referenced, have been working in the research arm to kind of find out novel ideas about beauty justice. And also, and as it stated in the main goals of our program, are hoping to make larger shifts to policy to protect Black women and girls, which is the last of our four pillars. Awesome. So now I'm going to ask you guys a quick question, just for some engagement, get you thinking a little bit. We're going to put up a poll, and the question is, what health conditions do you think are linked to endocrine disrupting chemicals or toxic chemicals in beauty products? And I'll read the answers to you.
Can everybody see the poll? I'm not seeing it on my end.
I think it's coming up.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, also, okay, here we go. So the options are skin and respiratory issues, neurological issues, growth or development issues, fertility issues, cancers, or all of the above. So I'll give everybody a little bit of time. You guys are crushing it so far. All right, let's do a few more seconds. Anybody wants to add in a few more answers? We've got about half the people, so All right. So I'm going to share the results. So you're right. Yes, skin and respiratory issues and growth and development issues are associated with these chemicals, but all of these answers are correct. And we'll get into this a little bit more in the next few slides. Great job. Sorry, just one second. Okay. Oh no. Didn't mean to share that twice. Sorry, everyone. So, as we just talked about, Black women and girls are overexposed to these harmful chemicals, and these chemicals have been linked to the negative health issues that we just discussed, including kidney damage, nervous system issues or dysfunction, breast and uterine cancer, reproductive and maternal health issues, so maybe something along fertility, and allergies and respiratory issues. So here's a little bit more of a specific of what those issues might look like. Links have been found between hair dyes, hair straighteners, relaxers, the list goes on, and outcomes such as menstrual cycle differences or characteristics, breast cancer, endometriosis, uterine fibroid, polycystic ovarian syndrome, different allergic reactions that could also just be a skin reaction, urinary dysfunction. Oh, I'm sorry. And it's covering up my last neurological dysfunction. Wonderful. So I want to ask one more question. How many chemicals do you think that we are exposed to on a daily basis? So the options span from 1 to 20 to over 100. And while you guys are doing it, I'm just going to check on the chat. Awesome. Glad to hear people are interested in the feminine research. I'll definitely touch on that at the end. Wonderful. All right, I'll give everybody about 10 more seconds if you have something you want to share or if you want to put your answer in the poll. Awesome. Okay. So we had a diversity of answers. The answer we'll talk about in the next slide is actually between 80 and 100, maybe more. But as you will also discuss, it is a lot more than you would maybe think on a day-to-day basis. And the reason behind that,
So I'm still seeing the poll slide, Sylvie, on my end. There we go.
yeah, I was just going to the next one. The reason behind that is these things add up. Maybe you brush your teeth and you use mouthwash and then you wash your face. These products and the chemicals within them, they're not all going to be dangerous. They're not all going to be toxic, but they do add up. So when you account for all these different beauty products and exposures, they end up being about 80 or more chemicals you're exposed to on a daily basis, which is pretty surprising. Yeah, and it can be scary reading the chat. Awesome. So why the Conscious Black Beauty Movement? Given this information, we really hope to use the Conscious Black Beauty Movement as a movement powered by CBHN to challenge the status quo in the beauty industry and share this information and make a change. It's our collective response to decades of toxic exposure, exclusion, and underrepresentation, and brings together health equity, cultural leadership, and policy reform to reduce these toxic exposures for Black women and girls, expand access to clean and safe personal care, and champion Black-led beauty solutions. So this is where beauty meets justice, and we're just getting started. And again, as we've already discussed a bit, we're hoping to power the future of beauty with purpose and reimagine what leadership in beauty can look like when justice, health, and culture take center stage. It's not just a program, it's a movement to build a new normal where safety isn't a luxury. So events like this wouldn't need to happen. We wouldn't need to have this extra education because it would already be safe. Black beauty isn't an afterthought. Health equity drives innovation. From policy to product shelf, CBBM is setting a new standard because the beauty industry can't be truly clean until it's just. So, as I discussed a bit, and I'm so happy to hear that people are already interested, we have been, conducting research about the feminine care chemicals found in chemical care products. Oh my gosh, feminine hygiene products, specifically non-menstrual products. We've sent those to the lab, and I'm excited to share with you what we find, as well as the other study pertaining to chemicals associated with breast cancer um, outcomes. And in the future, we hope to host detox days, which is events like this within salon settings. I'll share more about that later, as well as engage in intervention studies in hopefully within San Francisco, and additional work with the California Breast Cancer Research Project to do intervention studies relating to feminine care. So if you're interested in an intervention study, definitely stay abreast with California Black Health Network because we'll be recruiting directly from our network. So that will be exciting, and I'm hopeful about that. So now I'm going to turn it over to Gail Houston. I'm going to read her bio, and we're going to get started with our wonderful program for the rest of the afternoon or morning, I guess. So this is, I think I'm still pinned. Okay. So no worries. So I'm going to read her bio. Um, mm, 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 mm. Gail Houston, who is now pinned, you can see her lovely face, is an expert in global regulatory affairs and quality assurance with over 20 years of experience in cosmetics, over-the-counter drugs, dietary supplements, and food. As managing partner of Consult 413 LLC, Gail cuts through red tape and builds regulatory plans for personal care brands, many that market to Black women. She holds a BS in microbiology and an MS in food science. Passionate about simplification, she removes inefficiencies and creates processes that keep minimal complaint. Oops, 1 second. Minimal keeps products compliant out. And outside of work, Gail loves building community, exotic spicy foods, and hustling and bustling with her husband and 4 children. Thank you, Gail.
Hello, everyone. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so the objectives that I'm going to cover today, we're going to talk a little bit about the history of U.S. cosmetic regulations. We're going to talk about systemic issues in beauty standards, public health implications of those, and advocacy. What can we do? Next slide, please. I put this slide here for shock value. So as you can see, we had a Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act of 1938, and 84 years later, that was the next time we even touched regulation. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Food and Drug Cosmetic Act, how it was introduced. Next slide, please. So it was introduced because of 100 people dying because of a toxic ingredient, but it was in a drug product, not a cosmetic. But this prompted the public, it was a public health tragedy that prompted consumers to advocate. So what we're talking about today, consumers, the public outcry, rallied around, lose all these people dying. So that made the government put in place the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act of 1938. Now, I'll tell you, this act in regards to cosmetic, it was very limited, right? Very limited. So what it did for cosmetics was it defined cosmetics, it prohibited adulterated cosmetics, and it prohibited misbranded cosmetics, but there was no enforcement, right? So everything was in place, but something had to happen in order for the FDA to do anything about it. Moving on, 84 years later, we have MACRA. This was MACRA of 2022. MACRA still retains the same definition of a cosmetic. There's still no pre-market approval for cosmetics, but there were some good things that were added. So now products have to be listed in the FDA's CETA Direct system. Facilities, manufacturing facilities have to register their manufacturers. And when they register their manufacturers, they have to list the brands for which they're manufacturing. So there's a second checkpoint to, that this product is listed and the facility is listed. You have mandatory reporting of serious adverse events. So if you get an irritation or bumps, that's not serious. It has to be like a hospitalization. But now, if someone is hospitalized by using a cosmetic product, they report that to the FDA and then there will be action. And then it also gives the FDA, which is really important, it gives the FDA recall authority. So now the FDA can go in, pull products off the market if they feel there's a harm to the public. Next slide, please. So this slide I put in here just to show you guys the comparison of banned toxic ingredients around the globe in the major cosmetic markets. And just looking at this, just looking at the sheer chart, you'll see the US is way behind. Now, if you do research, the literature would say there are 11 banned chemicals in the US, and on the FDA website, the 11 are listed. But then some literature says 30, some says 50. So I'm just to keep it fair, I'm going to say there are less than 50 banned chemicals in the United States for cosmetic products. In Europe, in comparison to Europe, has over 1,700. So that's a vast difference of what we can put in our products here legally and what we you couldn't even ship the same product to Europe. You couldn't sell it on European soil. You'll definitely have to do some changes or have a whole separate formulation if you stick only to US regulations. Next slide, please. Okay, so moving on to systemic issues in beauty standards. We're going to cover 4 topics here. We're going to cover the legacy of colonization and anti-Blackness. We're going to talk about harmful products marketed to Black consumers, the lack of inclusive safety testing, and economic exploitation and ownership gaps. Next slide, please. So the legacy of colonization and anti-Blackness, as you can see, I want y'all to know, first, I'm going to say this as a disclaimer, I'm not attacking Barbie. I just know Barbie was the standard for Eurocentric, she was the standard for Eurocentric beauty standards, right? So colonial influence, European colonization imposed Eurocentric ideas, which means that it was considered beautiful and proper and civil to have features that were mostly European, right? So the straight hair, narrow features, light skin. You guys know, you can look at me and tell that that's very near and dear to my heart. I'm a little Black girl that grew up in Mississippi. So this influence, this colonial influence was very big in my life growing up, still is today, as you can see. Moving on, talking about regulatory blind spots, which really came from the colonial influence. So regulations were developed in cultural and scientific frameworks that prioritized the white consumer. So many products were tested on lighter skin, on straighter hair. So it didn't consider tightly coiled hair or darker skin types. Same as with the marketing bias, advertising and branding reinforce those narrow standards of beauty, often favoring the Eurocentric features. I mean, if we think about what's going on today, like we see some improvement. We see, we see more Black people embracing natural hair. We see these things, so we know that improvement is on the horizon. But there's still disproportionate funding and everything's put toward the Eurocentric beauty standards versus what we're here today talking about. Next slide, please. Harmful products marketed to Black consumers. Sylvie touched on this a bit. The skin lighteners, the hair straighteners, they're disproportionately used by Black women, and they are found to cause the things that she discussed, the endocrine disruptors, which lead to the hormonal cancers. It leads to neurological disorders, infertility, some developmental issues. All that stuff is controlled and regulated by your endocrine system. Next slide, please. So the lack of inclusive safety testing, underrepresentation in clinical trials, cosmetic companies rarely ensure diverse participation in product development and safety testing. But on the flip side, we don't show up and participate in those clinical trials either. And before doing this, I polled my family. So, and I asked, I said, "Hey, how many of you are willing to try a new product on your face, on your body, for some clinical trials?" And I didn't get one person that was willing to try anything new. And rightfully so, because we don't have a good history of, people were like the Tuskegee trials, or just we don't have a history of trust in that realm. So we have to do our part and participate, but then the companies also have to do their part and invite us to participate. So that is, that it's equal for everybody. But our lack of participation, it does lead to higher adverse reactions amongst us because it's not studied how these reactions would be for our skin and our hair. Cultural usage patterns are also ignored. The frequency of product usage, just the frequency, it leads to the underestimation of cumulative exposure. Sylvie touched on this a bit when she said over 80 chemicals are used. It's true. We just a twist out alone. I probably use 5 different products on my hair, on my skin. I have extremely dry skin. I'm gonna use an oil. I may use some lotion. There's going to be several things that I'm going to use. We pile it on. Then I'm going to spray on perfume before I leave. All of those things, we have to think about the cumulative effect of using all of these products on a daily basis, right? And then the next thing, long-term exposure. So we use all these products and then we use them for a long period of time. We use certain things from childhood. I'll tell you, my mom couldn't do hair growing up. So early on, I had what we called here in the South the Jerry curl early in my elementary days. And then after that, I went to relaxers, right? So this was all the way through college. I just went natural maybe about 3 or 4 years ago. So imagine using all of those chemicals, which we now know contain toxins over that long period of time. There are no studies to show. There are some studies now showing that they lead to cancer and fibroids and early puberty. I must have been covered, knock on wood, thank God. I've used all those things most of my life. And, so we have to be aware of those things now. Next slide, please. Okay, how the economic exploitation and ownership gaps in communities affect us. So let me find my notes to that. I wanted to kind of dive into this a little bit. So just say a little bit about it, just so I give you guys something to work with. So the legacy of extraction without equity, I found this very interesting, right? Like many natural ingredients used in cosmetics come from regions like Africa, Asia, right? These resources were extracted under colonial rule with no compensation or recognition to those local communities. Even today, the people who grow and prepare those hero ingredients that we see in a lot of products, they only earn a fraction of the money that comes from what these products are worth in the global beauty industry. So that is critical to think about. Like these resources are in those areas, and those people don't get any proceeds from that, right? Lack of Black ownership despite market power. She talked about that a little bit. Black women, Black consumers spend billions annually, but have very little ownership. It's very minimal. I think less than 5% of beauty brands sold in major retailers are Black owned. And that Black entrepreneurs face a lot of barriers getting into the market. They face limited access to capital, unaffordable compliance and formulation costs, and the retail gatekeeping. White-led brands profiting from ethnic beauty. We all know this story. Many mainstream companies have built multicultural product lines and acquired the Black-founded brands, often watering down the authenticity of those brands. But the brands tend to leverage Black culture for style and profit. They maintain control of the supply chains, formulas, marketing, but they rarely give back to the communities from which they benefit, right? So, this is a form of cultural commodification where Blackness is monetized without real inclusion or sharing of the wealth. Market saturation of unsafe products. We talked about that a little bit too. If you notice, in most serve communities. You have a bunch of dollar stores, you have beauty supply stores that are saturated with low cost products that contain these toxic ingredients. So we know this, right? Underinvestment in Black owned supply chains. It's really, Black owned brands struggle. They really struggle to find contract manufacturers that can manufacture the products that they want them to, affordable labs to customize formulations. And they struggle with systemic barriers like just the full lack of end to end supply chain access. So that lack of access limits the growth of these brands and it reinforces the cycle of underrepresentation. Gatekeeping in retail and media. We know if you're looking for products in ethnic, they're usually isolated. With ethnic products, they're usually isolated in stores. So it's kind of like gatekeeping in the retail media with the Eurocentric ideas. Still all full gatekeeping on that, very uninclusive for Black brands. And then the investment gap, of course. Black founders receive less than 1% of all venture capital funding in the US, and it stunts their growth. And it creates early loss of ownership through acquisition. We see these people build beautiful, big brands, great brands, and they're always acquired quickly because we do, as a consumer, we do go out and we do support those brands, and then they're bought out. Now, I'm not hating on the brands that sell, not one iota, because a lot of times they don't have a choice, right? If they want to get in the game to play the game with the bigger companies, they have to sell to get the capital, and then maybe they come back and reintroduce something else. A lot of times, though, we're already loyal to the brand that's been sold. So there's some work to do there. Next slide, please. So just briefly run through the public health implications of the limited cosmetic regulations and systemic beauty standards. We have increased exposure to harmful chemicals. Again, disproportionate impact on communities of color, mental health and body image disorders. So we have, with the Eurocentric beauty standards, which is rooted in colonization and anti-Blackness, we have the skin lightening, the hair straightening, cosmetic procedures. People are getting to alter their facial features. They want slimmer noses and, just those features to help them fit in. Psychological stress. This is a good one because some of this body image disorder, it does lead to low self-esteem. It does lead to eating disorders. It leads to anxiety and depression, especially amongst the youth, who have yet to be liberated from the standards of society, right? So lack of informed consumer choice. This is like where ingredient names are confusing or incomplete. Then you have the fragrance loopholes where chemicals are within fragrances, but if you ever read the ingredient list on back of pack, it just says fragrance, right? So those are things that we have to be aware of, that there could be hidden things in there, and we need to think about that. And there's also no safety standard enforcement. So if there's a false sense of protection that if you go into a store and you get a product off the shelf, you just think it's safe because it's in that store and on the shelf. Well, that's a false sense of protection because as we just discussed, there are limited regulations around these products. So I know people think, oh, I got it from Walmart or I got it from Ulta and Sally Beauty, so that makes it good. That's not true. It makes it legal, but it doesn't necessarily make it, safe, right? Reproductive and developmental risk, we talked about that. Environmental justice and the cumulative burden, we spoke a little bit on that. And workplace hazards, which it's good to think about people who hairdressers, beauticians, cosmetologists. They work with these chemicals every day, so they're exposed to it. I know the state of California does wonderful things for those people. California is just a different beast altogether. It's a country in itself. So California is leading the way, but there are a lot of other states in this nation that have no things in place for workplace hazards in the beauty industry. Next slide, please. What can we do? What can we do about this? We can support the Safer Beauty Bill package. We can promote the Crown Act locally. I think now has been passed in about 27 states, but we can promote those things. The most important to me is to educate yourselves on ingredient safety. That's most important. If you know what you're reading, you know what's on the back of pack, and you understand it, that's going to be your best way. Support Black owned clean beauty brands. Don't just support Black owned, but make sure those are clean beauty brands, and collaborate with public health leaders. Um, those are things that we can do, advocates can do to help. Next slide, please. Okay, that concludes my portion. But I do want to leave you guys with 3 random things. I just want to leave you with 3 things. If you didn't get anything else, I know that was quick, and I know it was just very surface. So if we want to deep dive into this, this is my contact information. You have any questions, you can always email me. I will respond. I promise I will respond. But I want to leave you with 3 things to remember, because we're talking about toxic ingredients in beauty products, right? Not all chemicals. So when you're reading those ingredient lists, I want you to remember that not all chemicals are bad. I mean, because it has a chemical name or it's a chemical, not all chemicals are bad, and not all natural ingredients are good, right? Poison ivy is natural. Someone said that, I stole that, it's not mine. But poison ivy is natural, right? We don't want to rub that all over our faces. So just remember, you don't want to completely think that something's not good because it contains chemicals, but I don't want you to think it's great just because it's all natural either. And also, I wanted to say, these are just 3 thoughts, y'all, that popped in my head. I wanted to leave with you. Boutiques. I know boutiques are on the rise, and everybody's ordering from TikTok Shop and all these small businesses, which I appreciate. But do remember that small businesses, depending on their profitability, they don't have to abide by some of these regulations. Albeit the regulations are really loose, they're not strong yet, but small businesses don't even have to abide by those, right? So just be aware that when you're shopping in boutiques, they may or may not abide by some of the regulations that are currently in place. And also advocate. If you don't know how to be an advocate, when you see products that you feel are bad, if you had a bad reaction, they're toxic, just don't buy them. Don't support products that are not, don't support brands that are not making products that are good for you, that are not, if they're not clean, if they're just not good for you, then don't support those. And with that, I'm going to conclude my portion. Thank you guys for having me. Really hot sitting under this light, so if you see me sweating, just consider that a little glistening. But I do thank you guys for your attention. And again, that's my contact information. If you need me, I'll be around. You can email me, and I'll definitely respond. Thank you.
Hey, Gail, this is Rhonda, and I have some questions for you that I wanted to ask and I'm curious about. And so with everything that's happening at the federal level and budget cuts and, government agencies being slashed and dashed, do you see any potential changes to consumer protections around some of these chemicals that are in hair and personal care products and other products that we use every day?
If I'm being completely honest, I do not. I do not.
Okay.
No. And think about this, y'all. This isn't what I'm talking about from a regulatory perspective. It doesn't just affect Black people, right? Because the regulations are what they are for any product. So, people still think they're getting great products. They're paying hundreds of bucks for products that contain toxic chemicals, chemicals that would be banned in countries like Europe and Asia. So no, I don't. And there have been too many cuts. And even if we get stronger regulations, what are they without enforcement? Right? Products can sit on shelves for years, they can sell out. We need to be proactive. Right now, everything that's in place is really reactive. But we need to get to a place where we're proactive, right? That's going to be the ultimate protection for the consumer.
Great, thank you very much. And then I think there's a question in the chat that may relate to what you shared with us. And that is, how can we hold research institutions and cosmetic companies accountable for including Black women and girls in clinical safety trials, not just as data points, but as co-creators of safety protocols?
Advocacy. We have to stop. We have to stop making them rich. We have to stop buying those products. We have to hit them where it hurts. That's the only way I can see, or just really say something. There are lots of avenues out there where we can say things. This is one of them, but just say something. Go to those companies and let them know. Ask questions. Have you studied this on dark skin? Have you studied this on tightly coiled hair? where's your research? Make these companies become more transparent, and then we'll know exactly what's going on. I know it's a lot of work. It's not easy. I say it like it's easy. It's not, but we need to be serious about this because it's damaging our communities.
Great. And then just a thought based on something you said earlier about
Mhm.
some of the Black-owned brands being bought out by bigger companies. I know Shea Moisture is one of them. They were bought by Unilever. I can't remember
Mhm.
exactly when, for an undisclosed amount. But I don't know if you have any thoughts about that particular situation as an example of something you mentioned
You
during your talk.
know, I don't about that particular situation, but in general, I'll say, in general, you'll have a brand, right? You'll have a Black-owned brand and we'll talk to some of these brand owners soon, but it'll be great, right? And then when it goes into mass production, it's hard to sustain a really good product when you're mass producing. It's really hard to sustain just from an ingredient sourcing perspective, packaging sourcing. It's hard, something with a really good hero ingredient that's hard to come by. How can you mass produce that? So it I don't want to bash those companies, and especially Shea Moisture. I'm just Shea Moisture maintained a lot of its formulations. Some may have changed, but I do know for a fact that it did maintain a lot. I can say that I'm close to Shea Moisture, so that's about all I can say. But it did maintain some of the formulations that were initially there. So that's one good thing. And I think the creativeness over Shea Moisture was kind of the founder was still working with it even after it was purchased. So I think that was something good to say about just that particular brand, I can say. But when they mass produce, they have to change it a lot of times. They do. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to move along. I'm going to hand it back over to Sylvie, and she's going to introduce the next section and speaker.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gail. That was great. And I'm going to now introduce Karina Petty, who is going to talk about consumer rights and social action and clean beauty and the consumer. So, Karina is a dedicated advocate for racial justice who focuses on empowering youth and Black communities. Her experiences as a young mother fueled her passion for women's rights and supporting Black families as she seeks to challenge and dismantle harmful stereotypes. She has effectively led initiatives aimed at improving access to healthy food, securing tenant protections, and encouraging parental involvement in equitable school board advocacy. Additionally, she's contributed to various electoral campaigns from local races to presidential elections. She holds a BA in Liberal Studies and Criminal Justice from San Francisco State University, along with an AA in Sociology and Liberal Arts from Solano Community College. And in her spare time, she loves engaging in family activities, free writing, exploring nature, and coaching soccer, underscoring her commitment to nurturing the next generation. Thank you so much, Karina. Pass it over to you.
Thanks, Sylvie, and thank you, Gail, for your amazing real talk on the history and systemic issues around consumer safety, as well as what we can do to create a safer, more just environment for consumers, and also your realness in the conversation around just what we can do and it's advocating. So I'm really excited to continue the conversation about beauty justice and to share my role that I am now in at Consumer Reports as a beauty justice campaigner. In my presentation, I will discuss our campaign. You will learn about its origins, the campaign process, and how you can empower yourself in your daily life to help create a safer and better world for yourself and your community. Next slide. Yeah, so I am here at Consumer Reports. I'm newly here. We are an independent nonprofit organization dedicated to improving consumer safety and well-being. You'll see here that there are numerous departments at Consumer Reports, all working together to create a better world for consumers. What I'm representing today is the campaign team. Next slide. Consumer Reports is dedicated to ensuring that Black women can trust the safety of their personal and beauty care products, while federal and state governments neglect the regulation of harmful toxins found in Black care products. Corporations continue to profit from items that adversely affect the health of Black individuals. feeling beautiful should never come at the risk of one's life. The issue, and I think the issue that we all are continuing to talk about, is that Black women are disproportionately affected by toxic chemicals in beauty and personal care products. These harmful substances found in everyday items like hair relaxers, synthetic braiding hair are linked to serious health issues. Black women and girls are at the forefront of these issues, and I am honored to be a part of this campaign and a part of this initiative. Next slide. Before joining Consumer Reports, I worked at Color of Change for about 8 years, which is the largest online racial justice organization in the nation. As an organizer and director there, I wore many hats. During this time, I had the opportunity to learn directly from Marshall Gans, who led the Leadership Organizing and Action Program at Harvard Kennedy Executive Education. Today, I will show you how we turned our testing, synthetic braiding hair testing, into a campaign and how you can do the same. I'll demonstrate how you use your voice to inspire others and create the necessary changes for our communities, not just not just to survive, but to thrive. Synthetic braiding hair is one of our newest personal care products we are testing. Beauty and personal care products are at the heart of our organization. That is why when we heard from our Black consumers about their concerns regarding potential hazardous chemicals in synthetic braiding hair, we knew that it was our responsibility to act swiftly to address these concerns. Organizations that you all mentioned in the chat are who we work with today, such as Black Women for Wellness, Breast Cancer Prevention Partners, California Black Women's Collective Empowerment Institute, National Hairstyle and Braid Coalition. We act as so many phenomenal folks have championed the Black beauty justice work for many years. And as Consumer Reports, I came in understanding that we are supporting the work that is already done. And by supporting that, we come with our expertise in testing, policy work, and journalism. So really our goal is to build people power and win improvement in the marketplace for and with Black consumers. This February, we tested 10 brands of synthetic braiding hair, and I would like to show this video of Dr. Jim Rogers, who conducted the findings. Next slide, and then we can press. And hopefully everyone see.
Just 1 second, everybody. I'm going to transition over to the video. So sorry, everyone. All right, can everyone see?
Yes, thanks, Sylvia. You're
Many
doing great.
people who wear
Okay.
synthetic braids experience rashes and redness, especially right after the install. But our latest investigations reveals that there can be more to braiding hair than just skin irritations. We tested 10 braiding hair products for heavy metals and volatile organic compounds, both of which can put your health at risk. 9 out of the 10 were positive for lead. With prolonged exposure, heavy metals such as lead can damage the brain and the nervous system and have been linked to immune system suppression, among other health concerns. These findings are part of years-long investigation into the presence of heavy metals in food products such as rice and some baby food. It is important to minimize heavy metal exposure whenever you can. This is especially important for young children and if you are pregnant. We contacted all synthetic braiding hair brands we tested for comment. Only 2, Sensational and Magic Fingers, responded, both disagreeing with our testing methodology. Hair's own Sensational said, "We unequivocally stand by the safety of Sensational products, and our company urges consumers to continue to confidently use Sensational products." Magic Finger said that we strongly stand by the safety of our products and the quality materials used to make them. Tap the link in our bio to read our full investigative report on synthetic braiding hair, including ways that you can stay safe now.
Awesome. Thank you, Karina. I'll share back to your slides now.
Yeah, thank you. So you can just do the next slide here. So yeah, all that you've seen here, y'all, is our newest testing of synthetic braiding hair. So prior to coming to Consumer Reports, I had no idea what the test was going to show. I came in knowing that, there might be a space where, people won't stop wearing synthetic braiding hair. I also said, I don't know if there's a world where me and my homegirls stop wearing braids, but I do know that there's a world where we want to know what's in the products that we're putting in our hair. And we want to think about what are the safest ways to feel beautiful, and also understand that braid is a cultural thing, right? I know for me as a mom, even for my son, who wears braids, not synthetic braiding hair, but we keep it in so that way we don't have to think about it, right? So like really coming into this work, I was like, wow, I just never knew that, synthetic braiding hair was toxic. And then I had some in my cabinet and I looked and there was no ingredient label, right? So like that's the catch. Like we're buying products that don't have ingredient labels, right? So coming into this, I was just like, what is in there? What could I do to support? And really the biggest thing for me was like, there's already so many people doing this work. So how can I get connected with them? And like, what are the best ways that we can, funnel this information into the community? And a lot of people were like, we need to meet people where they're at. We need to like be real about this. And when we came out with the findings, a lot of people were like, so what now? What do we do? Right. And now I'm excited to share that we are going to be do alternative testing. But before we did that, we had to come together with all the groups that I had mentioned before. That's why it was super important for me to really come forward and say this is a collaborative effort. Like we are not people that are just doing this work alone. People have been doing it for some time. So it was really important to root already folks that's been doing this in like a clear purpose. So like whether you're, whatever you're doing in your personal and professional life, grounding your actions in purpose makes all the difference, right? Passion fuels purpose. So with that, you'll see here that one of the first steps that we did when we came together for our testing was to figure out what was our shared purpose. And an effective shared purpose identifies who's your community, who's the people that you're serving, right? What's the clear purpose of what we're coming together to do? What's the commitment to a shared outcome, and what's the measurable progress? So again, regardless of what you're doing in your life, make sure that it's rooted in some type of purpose. Next slide. And you'll see here that we all came together in a hybrid model. Sylvie was there, and we decided that we were going to be partners that mobilize our members in our organization, in our community, to improve the marketplace for all Black consumers. And the way we would do that is to eliminate harmful chemicals in synthetic braiding hair. And our goal is to achieve a marketplace and legislative victory by the end of 2025. And I'm going to be real, I don't know if that's possible, but as an organizer, I try to be very optimistic. But regardless of like if it's possible now or if it's possible then, we have to be very clear that the goal is to eliminate harmful chemicals found in synthetic braiding hair. Next slide. So you'll see here that we talked about our shared purpose. That's like one of the biggest things that we think about when we think about any campaign, right? You'll also see in our shared purpose that we talked about a measurable goal. So here at Consumer Reports, we did a lot of work in New York around the Beauty Justice Act, which is basically an act that would ban harmful chemicals for majority of the personal care and cosmetic products sold in New York State, including braiding hair and hair relaxers. Unfortunately, this did not pass, but we are going to continue to move forward because we can't stop, right? We have to move forward. We also are doing corporate work. So out of the 10 brands of the synthetic braiding hair that we tested, 3 of them had benzene in them, right? Can you believe it? 3 of them had benzene in them. So we are pressuring Sensational and Magic Fingers to eliminate benzene along with the other harmful chemicals that are in their products, and we're also supporting the Safer Beauty bill. So you'll see here that the synthetic braiding hair campaign has many North Stars. So we're really meeting people where they're at right now. A lot of people are just like not in hopes with our administration, right? They're like, what other work can we do? So we see that corporate target as being something that could help maybe And I want to say that Magic Fingers got back to us again, and want to have a conversation with us. And we're hoping that with like the corporate work, that can be not an immediate win, but it can be a win in the meantime, where we're really working with corporations to, you know, find safer alternatives. So you'll see here the 5 leadership practices, and I want you all to kind of take this in and just really think about just your life, what's happening in your community, what are you seeing in your schools, in your workplaces, you know, in the corporations around you. And it doesn't even just have to be about beauty, right? It just needs to be about what's happening in your community that is holding Black people back from being better. So though organizing is not a linear process, organizers use the first 3 practices, which are stories, relationship, and structure. So I really want to focus on the story and relationship building, because that is what was key in the Black Beauty Justice campaign that I'm running at Consumer Reports. It was the story sharing. It was the relationships that we were building in order to really bring together our community to get to strategy and action, which are, you know, the last 2 things that wield the power in order to create change. So you'll see here that public narrative is sharing the story of why we are called to lead, why we are called to mobilize our community. Like, what is our why? Like, think about this question. What does beauty justice mean to you, right? When's the first time you wore synthetic braiding hair? And like, as you think about it, like, have you ever had any type of reaction to that, right? So just really thinking about what beauty justice means to you. And then from there, you think about relationship building, the act of developing intentional relationships as a foundation of purposeful collective action, right? So for me, beauty justice was, for me, it's like feeling beautiful in my skin without it jeopardizing my health, right? So with that, and also being able to feel beautiful while wearing my braids, right? While wearing my hair straight. Like, I don't want to have to put myself in a box because society tells me that I have to, but I also don't want to slowly die from the things that I'm using, right? So with that, who are other people in this community that I can talk with, that I can share this story with, that can also share their story with me? And then from there, build that relationship into a team structure. So right now we have over 19 organizations that are partnered with our synthetic braiding hair campaign. And I will say that without these partnerships, we would not be in this space of being able to push our actions forward. And then from there, you'll go into strategy. How do you strategize turning your resources into power? Like, what do you have right now that we can collectively do together to strategize and win and take action? Next slide. So these practices are directly reflected in my campaign, or our campaign. You'll see the peaks and valleys here, and I'll go through them really swiftly because I know I have about 5 minutes. But really, this campaign started with us talking to Black mom groups in New York City about what was keeping them up at night. And I always want to emphasize the fact that if these women did not come out to a public event and talk about something that was keeping them up at night, we may not have did this, right? So understanding that, like, your voice matters. And I believe Gail hit on this. We have to show up to those public events. We have to show up and say, we're here. We have to use our voice and say, like, this is what I want to do. So I want to emphasize that this synthetic braiding hair campaign came specifically from Black moms that cared enough to say, this is something that I am concerned about, and help us. We listened, and then from there, we did our testing. I was hired on in January to work with other organizations like Sylvie, who was so prompt in my email that I had sent to her. Love all the work that you all are doing at CBBM, and was like, I need to come in contact with these folks because they've already been doing so much work. So I would ask Sylvie, hey, how can we bring this information to your folks? How can we bring this information to a community that loves braids, right? So for me, it was also bringing in that information and making sure that I was talking with folks around like how this information could resonate with folks. Next slide. So in February, you'll see that we launched the FDA campaign asking for the FDA to eliminate harmful chemicals in synthetic braiding hair. As I mentioned, with this administration, it's really hard. So we dived into some New York work where we launched our New York State action, calling on consumers to message their New York lawmakers. Unfortunately, that did not get passed, but again, that did not stop. You'll see here in early May, we also launched our marketplace action where we are calling on Sensational and Magic Fingers to eliminate benzene out of their products. And then you'll also see that we launched a new investigation on hair relaxers that I'll share a little bit more about. And then end of May, we collaborated with We Act for Environmental Justice and Clean and Healthy to have a community conversation around what the Beauty Justice Act is, right? We know that Black folks, also need to understand this information in a way that resonates with them, right? So having a casual community conversation, not with big words, in a way that can really sit with them and their families of what it means for the Beauty Justice Act to pass. So we held one in Yonkers and the Bronx, and it was really great. And this is where we are continuing to have the community involved in our conversations. You'll see here that the session ended. It didn't pass, but we're moving forward, and we are going to be doing a petition delivery to Sensational and Magic Fingers, so that way we can continue the pressure. And I just want to remember that advocacy is continuing the pressure to ensure that they see that we're not stopping, right? I think Gail had talked about like stop buying the products, right? Like what could we do in the meantime to keep each other safe and to build community? Next slide. And this is another video from our Black Beauty Justice campaign around hair relaxers. And again, I want to emphasize the idea of storytelling and relationship building in order to really build power and win in your community. Sylvie, we can play this slide and then I'll share some closing remarks.
Wonderful. Just 1 second, everyone.
No problem.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Karina. It's asking me to request access, so maybe we can come back to it.
Okay.
At the end.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
everybody.
No, you're okay. So basically, we did an investigation on hair relaxers known to cause cancer, and we gathered 3 Black women to talk about their stories, right? About what it meant for them to straighten their hair and why they did it, right? And they talked about their mothers doing it, their mothers doing it, so the generational trauma that followed with that, right? Many of these women are unable to have kids, right? So coming into this and saying and standing broad, I'm like, this is what happened to me and I don't want this to happen to other people. And for me, when I heard about this story, it prompted me to talk to my granny, right, who is now who's very sick, bald-headed, has been, right, my granny's sister, my aunties, and just kind of talk with them about the products that they were using, and like me wondering, like, does this have something to do with why they're sick now? So I'll be able to drop the link, but sorry, y'all. But really just understanding the willingness of individuals to speak out and share their experiences does inspire. It takes strength to expose the harm caused by products we trusted for so long, and bravery serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of standing up for justice and change. So again, I want to emphasize the first of the 5 leadership practices, which is share your story and create spaces for others to share theirs. Change begins with lived experiences. So I encourage you all to share what beauty justice means to you and to get involved. We really need to create, I always say, a safe and creative space where women who look like us can share their stories. We really have no idea who is listening. For centuries, our ancestors used their voices and life experiences as a means to create change. We are still fighting for it today. We celebrated Juneteenth on Thursday, but we are still struggling with the freedom, right? We don't have freedom in our personal and beauty care products, right? We are trying our best to protect ourselves and our communities from that, but it really takes us standing together. We have strength to protect Black women and girls from harmful chemicals, such as those found in the synthetic braiding hair testing. This is not a fight for today, but a commitment to the future. We must ensure that we live in a world where beauty products do not mean harm, and we want justice to prevail. So thank you, Sylvie, for the opportunity for this, and just want to say I appreciate y'all.
Yeah, thank you, Karina, for that amazing information, and you're doing amazing work. So thank you for all of that. But just a couple of things. Did you mention any hair braiding suppliers that you would recommend as a safer alternative option?
I did not. So we just got funding to do the alternative. So we did not have the funding to do it when we actually had the synthetic braiding hair testing, but we do now. So we will have some alternatives picking up. I know we're in conversation with Rebundle, who is a plant-based product. We're testing human hair. We're testing easy braid. So as of now, no. But we will in the future, and I'll make sure to keep y'all updated on that.
Great, thank you. And can you briefly talk about the Safer Beauty Bill package and what that's all about? I know there are 4 bills that are part of that, but can you briefly touch on that?
Yeah, so we are working with BCPP, Breast Cancer Prevention Partners, to reintroduce what that looks like, and that's going to be happening in July 17th. So we are going to be adding some new chemicals, ones that were found in the synthetic braiding hair product, in the synthetic braiding hair testing. So reintroducing July 17th, and from there we are going to be organizing actions to help get that passed. But I think for me and my expertise and what I like to think about is the corporate accountability work that we can do right now, right? We know L'Oreal has a really big lawsuit happening around hair relaxers. So what does it look like to push out more corporate accountability campaigns to get the federal and the state to really see that we're trying to hold corporations accountable for what's happening, because they're not.
Great. Thank you very much. I know we could talk about this a lot longer, but we're trying to be respectful of everyone's time today. But hopefully we can bring you back as well as Gail back and have a broader conversation or a more lengthy conversation about some of these important things and information for people to know. So we can move on to now our panel discussion. And I am happy to have with us today a set of amazing individuals in their own right. Some are brand owners, some work for brand companies. And just give me a second. So first up is, so we've got Chris. That's Chris Franklin, who is head of community and culture at Mad Hippie. In his role at Mad Hippie, he leads national and in-person event marketing and cultivates meaningful relationships around the brand's clean, effective skincare products. Guided by a passion for connection, Chris works to create welcoming spaces that inspire authenticity, well-being, and a sense of shared purpose. His mission is to add joy, longevity, and deeper connection to the way we live and engage one another. Next up is Amber McCubson. She is a trailblazing entrepreneur, wellness advocate, and founder of Meraki Hair Wellness, which is a clean beauty brand renowned for its award-winning crystal-infused hair care products formulated with Ayurvedic botanicals and rooted in ancient wellness rituals. Her journey began into clean beauty when she suffered second-degree burns on her face as a result of some products that she was using. And thankfully, she recovered from that. This experience sparked deep research into ingredients used in cosmetics, where she uncovered a harsh truth that beauty products marketed to Black women and girls often contain some of the most toxic ingredients in the industry. So due to lack of regulation, and many of these harmful chemicals do go undisclosed, she was fed up with the harm being done, and Amber drew on her background as a licensed esthetician and trained herbalist to create a line of non-toxic holistic hair care products. And she was able to expand her mission beyond the Meraki brand. She also leads the Clean Beauty Coalition and is its founder and CEO, which is a collective working to eliminate toxic chemicals, increase ingredient transparency, and raise the bar for industry standards. Amber does a lot of things, but I can say that she's a visionary leader and is really committed to clean, non-toxic beauty, and all of that has earned her recognition from Oprah's Magazine, Harper's Bazaar, and Women's Health, among many others. She is reshaping industry standards by advocating for ingredient transparency. And last but certainly not least, we've got Kim Roxy, who is a celebrated brand owner in the beauty space for all women since launching her career straight out of college as an entrepreneur in the beauty industry. Well, she got her degree from Clark Atlanta University and an executive leadership certificate from the Tuck Business School. Her background lays the foundation for her success. So great educational background there and foundation. She also earned her esthetician license from Houston Community College before becoming a top brow and makeup artist in Houston. She is very dedicated to infusing inclusivity into the beauty industry that spans many decades. So in 2020, Lamique was launched as her brand, as an e-commerce brand with its hero product, the Revelation Brow Duo. This milestone secured a deal with Ulta Beauty and led to launches with 13 Lune, JCPenney, and HS, or Home Shopping Network. So she received recognition, including joining the Tory Burch Fellowship, which is an amazing program for female business owners and entrepreneurs, Houston Business Journal's 40 Under 40, the 2021 Texas Women's Foundation Young Leaders Award, the 2023 Icon Award at the Power Networking Conference, and being honored as a role model at the Greater Houston Women's Chamber of Commerce. I could go on and on about Kim. She does a lot. I know her heart is in the right place when it comes to the community and caring for the community and how some of the products have maybe impacted the health and well-being of women in our community. So I won't hold up any longer. I'm happy to have with us today these amazing individuals and panelists. So let's move on. So I'm really interested in hearing about your individual journey. I think all of us have a personal story that has led us to the place where we are now, I myself included. So Kim, why don't we start with you? Can you share a little bit more about your personal and brand story and your commitment to clean beauty and how you got to this place?
Absolutely.
And with your business? Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Rhonda. I got pages of notes over here. I got screenshots. This has been so good already today. I'm literally just like, I just want to scream from the rooftop right now about what we're talking about today. My personal story really kind of began, as we talked about today, just as a young child, growing up, dark-skinned girl in Houston, Texas, where colorism was very prevalent, where you think about even, hair texture and all of that kind of stuff. And so, and then for me, I never felt seen by the beauty industry. So a part of me getting in the beauty industry was to celebrate my own beauty, but then also learning and finding out that my mom had metastatic breast cancer, and my big sister with breast cancer, but not having a genetic mutation. That really brought my awareness and my consciousness and my concern towards the issue and what we talk about today. So it really hits home with me that the two people who I trusted as my beauty icons have passed at earlier ages due to breast cancer. And so me being in the beauty industry is a homage and a tribute to them. But then also just knowing how much I was impacted as a young girl growing up in the South by toxic images and trying to conform to a beauty that I would never be able to really conform to. But it was looked at as, what my goal should be. I really feel moved by today. So I'm excited to be here and joining the conversation. But my personal, I got a personal, almost like vendetta with the beauty industry that, what I'm doing speaks a lot to how I was impacted And now just trying to change it. I believe the beauty industry needs a makeover, and I'm just a part of that.
Mhm.
Great. Chris, although you're not a brand owner, I know that you're very passionate about the clean beauty space. So can you tell us a little bit about you and your journey and story about how you got to be at Mad Hippie and do this work?
Yes, beauty I did not know was sort of the industry I would come into. What drew me to the work that I do is community and creating inclusive spaces where we all feel welcomed. And, in many ways, the beauty industry has felt contrary to that. So when I was introduced to Mad Hippie and the founders, and full disclosure, Mad Hippie is not a Black-owned organization. It is owned by a husband and wife team. And so my purview is the opportunity to work in an independently owned company against these multinational corporations and see the sort of perspective that comes with not putting the dollar over the customer at the end of the day. And so as we compete against these multinational corporations as a clean and effective skincare brand, I sort of see the ugly underbelly of the beauty industry. And I go across the nation, building community, interacting with people in so many wonderful and beautiful ways, and hearing their testimonials to the introductions to our products. And each and every event that we do, I just find more and more motivation to continue to spread the word and grow the insights and awareness of the wonderful attributes of having clean and guilt-free products that we use and love and work harmoniously with our bodies and skin.
Great. Thank you. And Amber, certainly not last but not least, can you tell us about, I mentioned your experience with using an over-the-counter product that really damaged your skin and on your face in particular. So can you talk to us about that whole experience, how you overcame that, and then how that really was the inspiration for you to start Meraki?
Yeah, and thank you so much, Rhonda, for having me. I feel like it was a very traumatic situation because very similar to you guys. It's like you have a product, you buy it from a store, you trust that this product is not going to affect you in any type of way. So at that time, I was already living like a healthy, holistic lifestyle, but I had no idea that I had to check behind these larger companies to see if their, ingredients are going to affect my health. So it was super traumatic, especially being on your face, your skin, that's what everybody sees. There were second-degree burns that took just years to heal. At that time, my daughter was really young. I really just started doing a deep dive on ingredients, and really figuring out, how this is affecting us. And then just on top of that, to learn that the Black community is the most affected, I feel like it was just heartbreaking. It hit me in a certain place that there was a fire in me that could not be stopped. So I'm like, what can I do? I figure, hair is the most important part because people don't really understand that, it is skin, like there's skin under there. It's still going to seep in, and so I just went on full force, started to, understand that we can also have holistic ingredients that can be actually more effective than these chemicals, So yeah, just with the brand, getting out there, and as I'm kind of getting involved in the community, and learning that, our community is actually not educated on these things as they should be, so I feel like it's a huge responsibility for me to kind of step out there and really go full force on getting this information out there. You can't force anybody, but you can definitely put the education out there so that they can make the right decisions for themselves, and I also feel that it's very important for the next generation to kind of understand these things. I feel like that's where it's going to change, and really coming in collectively with you, CBHN, other organizations to really, how can we impact, even after and educating people, what can we do to change things? Like, that's really what it's about. So, yeah.
Great. I know, we think that because a product is on the shelf, that it's safe for us to use and that it meets certain standards, but that is not always the case, unfortunately. So I think, having this discussion today helps bring that awareness and understanding to the forefront. And I certainly do appreciate all that you all do to make that happen. And so the next question relates to really understanding some of the challenges that you all may have faced, and maybe more so for Kim and Amber, as especially a Black female brand owner. Like, what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced in moving your brand forward and being successful, and how did you overcome those challenges? So Kim, how about we go with you?
How much time you got? I mean,
Yeah, could be,
you
I know, a
know,
whole session in itself. Yeah.
that's a whole session in itself that I would love for consumers to be aware of. So, because I believe the next wave of commerce is going to happen with consumers thinking like manufacturers, thinking like the brand. That's how we're going to get into conscious consumerism. Because Lamique Beauty, we are a beauty brand, we're a makeup brand that is manufactured in the US, in America, number one. And we're manufactured mostly right in my hometown of Houston, Texas. And our products, like this lip gloss I got in here, is made in Houston. This brow gel is made in Houston, right? I was just at the HBCU conference in Washington, D.C., where I was speaking at earlier. And I was talking about how I got my chemist to hire graduates from HBCUs, from Clark Atlanta, from Prairie View, from Texas Southern University. These are now Black girls that work in the lab that, again, now when you can work in it, then you can have a different posture towards it. The products will come out differently. The consideration for the ingredients, the consideration for even the chemical compoundness of it all happens differently. People don't realize so many products that are made, that are marketed, that we use are not made by us. So, it's like anything. Nobody don't have a certain type of consideration. And so I am an independent. I felt Chris so much when he said he's working for an independent brand. I'm an independent brand that is not VC backed type of thing. So we are growing based on sales, based on your actual consumerism. And so because of that, a lot of the things we talk about, these big companies, they do not do what they can do. Believe me, I'm doing the best I can do with the resources that I got. What Mariah Carey said, I'm doing the best with what I got. That's what I'm doing. There are billion-dollar companies that are not doing the best with what they got at all. And so for us, when I think about, Gail earlier talked about the gatekeeping when it comes to retail and all of that, we are the only Black-owned makeup brand that's inside of a retailer called Hy-Vee. They're a billion-dollar brand, billion-dollar retailer in the Midwest. And they're in Kansas, Iowa, all these places. And we are the only Black-owned clean makeup brand in their store, right? Thinking about that, what type of barriers, what type of challenges do you think I run into? So my work is not just making an amazing eyebrow product, even though I do. Clock it. Yes, we do. The best one on the market. It's made from 88% natural and certified organic ingredients. It's amazing. Gayle King wore it on her cover of her Sports Illustrated cover. But it's not just being able to make that product, it's educating people who a lot of times don't even realize that a Black girl can make safe makeup products that all women can wear. And so us even relating that to retailers, I'm having basic conversations like that, retailers. And so there's a lot we have to work through And then on top of that, getting 0.006% of funding, right? So I'm making a conscious product in Houston, Texas with good ingredients, put out in the market so all can get it. I'm doing all of that. And I literally have never had I have never had $500,000 at one time to build my brand. I have literally never had, you know, multiple six figures to build my brand. You understand? So this is what we're working with and what I need people to understand. So you can make better choices on what you're buying. We need to buy out brands like Amber's, like myself, Lamit, who are creating these products with more conscious intention, Mad Hippie, with more conscious intentions, because we need to shore up and power up the companies who are doing it. So yes, so many issues, so many barriers. I'm overcoming them every single day. Sometimes I wake up just transparently and I'm like, why am I doing this? This is so hard. Like, why am I putting myself through this? But when I walk inside of a Hy-Vee and I realize that I'm like the only one in here, and I walk and I go to on Ulta. Even when we launched on Ulta.com, we were the first Black-owned clean makeup brand to launch onto Ulta. That is in 2025 right now. And so I just look at that, and that's what keeps me going, despite these obstacles. But I do think as consumers, we need to make better choices and be way more committed to shopping from us so we can see more of it.
Great. Yeah. So kudos to you for being able to accomplish all that you have with, not having investors fuel that growth and progress. So that's amazing. Thank you. And so Amber, what about you? What are some of the challenges that you faced in getting Meraki off the ground and growing your business, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah.
Or just, like dealing with all of that, right?
Very similar to Kim. I am still an independent brand. I am very much self-funded. So we have not, yet taken any investment. And so for a clean beauty brand, I think especially it's hard because at scale, it does take a certain level of efficacy, which comes with training, and also the ingredients are more expensive. And so, my heart is still there, but those are the challenges, I think, which are deeply rooted in funding. You can't run anything really efficiently if you don't have the fundings to kind of build something great. So I feel like that's the main thing within the community. And I also think, which is one reason why I started Clean Beauty Coalition, is that people are just not aware of any alternatives that they can use in terms of ingredients to, formulate their product. And so, on my board, I have toxicologists, I have chemists who can then in turn teach you without charging thousands of dollars that we don't have in our budget, but people who are actually passionate about the community, and want us to build from there. But yeah, I mean, the challenges are not going to stop anytime soon. I mean, it's a lot of work that needs to be done, but I think that while we're here, it's our, obligation to, whatever we can do to negate or try to help the people that are coming, behind us, that's what we can do, And so I just try not to focus on the challenges because they are going to be there, so, just try to push forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's important, especially in these days and times, that we do support Black-owned businesses. Wherever they may have and how they sell their products, but definitely to make sure that we're continuing to, drive forward economic security and products that are definitely more culturally appropriate for us, and as well as safe. And I don't know, Chris, if you have any thoughts about, I know from your company perspective and being at Mad Hippie and working with the founders, there any insight or perspective about some of the challenges that they may have faced, or even comment on what Amber or Kim has shared with us?
Yeah, I could say this, the conversation is what's needed. The skincare and beauty industry needs to be revolutionized, and what we have, available through it to us through conversation is the ability to completely disrupt what the intentions of Unilever and some of these larger multinational corporations have. Because what we've noticed, to the scale of our company is the sort of copy and paste. They've sort of taken the model of our company. They've sort of taken our branding, and you'll see multiple organizations sort of try to represent themselves. In the past it was greenscaping, now it's sort of cleanscaping, and we need to have these conversations and create the curiosity and inquiry around what is actually good for us, good for our skin, good for our hair, good for our bodies, to make us healthier, and feel more confident in the skin we're in.
Great. And so why do you think, the manufacturers knowingly use harmful chemicals in their products and intentionally market them to Black women and girls? Like, why do you think they do that? And what are your thoughts about that? Because I say this kind of reminds me or maybe is analogous to what big tobacco has done with menthol cigarettes in the Black community. But want to hear your thoughts about why you think they do that, and why are they continuing to get away with doing it for so long?
Yeah, I think
Go ahead, Amber.
Yeah, you definitely kind of hit the mark when you said very similar to, how they kind of put, the nicotine in our communities. Unfortunately, I do feel like it's very racially motivated, which is just very unfortunate and sad. Welcome to America.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So Kim, what about you?
Yeah, I was about to say, we touched on this earlier, but even when we talk about the toxic ingredients, toxic images go right along with that. Because when you marry the fact that I'm supposed to look a certain way, and to accomplish that, I have to use this type of product to accomplish that, and my counterparts don't have to. Now, here is the risk factor. And so the way that you do it is by sort of creating this ambiance of, this is beauty and this is what it's supposed to look like. And then this is how I get you to use these things against that. We can look at skin lighteners. To be lighter, and studies show this, to be lighter, you get more opportunities at work. These are real studies that show data that backs up this type of thing. And so what happens is you try to lighten your skin. Now you're using skin lighteners now that end up harming you on the inside. So why manufacturers are doing this, and this onset, it feels like a genocide, right? The way that it happens. But I also believe that this is when, because I don't know about anybody on here, and I believe so, we all sort of have this attitude like, well, what can we do? And I recently opened up a store, a Lamique store, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, home of Black Wall Street. And when I think about what people did during a segregated time, and how Black Wall Street was encapsulated within about almost 40 blocks, and it was insulated. All around it was white areas that hated them, obviously, because we see what happened with the race riot. But in that community, they loved, they built, they spent with each other. And they had a vibrant community, hotels, movie theaters, beauty shops, all the things, grocery stores, hospitals, legal. And I say that to say that even though you have folks who are making things around us, why don't we shore up the businesses and the manufacturers that are? Why aren't we making sure that the ones that are doing right by us, showing up, making sure they're successful, and on a campaign and on a bullhorn, making sure that happens? Because if we're waiting on them to do it, that I don't believe is a good strategy for us to live by. And it's not one that I'm doing for my daughter. I raised my daughter as a young girl, already knowing what I went through with my hair, and what happened to my image and my distorted image of beauty when it came to hair. And I raised my daughter up from young. Her name is Loretta, but we call her Lolo, and she knows she's Lolo with the fro. And she knows she got an afro. She see other women with afros. She always compliment. She's like, "Oh, look at her." She'll say it. She'll go up to a stranger and tell them how beautiful their afro is. But I'm getting her just to understand at a young age, because then now she won't put herself, when we talk about, again, ingredients, she won't put herself in harm's way with certain things, and even with beauty, understanding, and complexion. So I just believe that at this point, we have to insulate within ourselves and build each other up, and not fall victim to what the perpetuators and the aggressors are trying to do to us.
Great. And Chris, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it comes down to exploitation. To sum it up, they're using byproducts that would otherwise be waste, and they're trying to make capital on it and create profit on it. And they're exploiting, people who, they can, because of leverage. It's from the dawn of time, that this system has been working, and it is always my hope that the democratization of conversation and community, and the ability to hopefully build, I have family history in Black Wall Street, the opportunity to build once again in isolation, in provocation of, these are the issues we're dealing with. How do we create a system that protects us? All praise due to Kim and Amber, to Gail, to Karina, to everybody on this panel, and everybody involved in putting this together, because these conversations are so necessary in the community.
Great.
And
And
Rhonda,
hopefully we'll have oh, go ahead, Kim.
no, I was just about to say, Rhonda, because I just want to say this real quick, because people don't realize I was in a retailer meeting with a major retailer who plenty of people shop at and everything, and they said to me that they were telling me about a Black owned, well, they were telling me about a brand that they were trying to say was diverse. And I said, okay, and this was some years back. And I said, okay, I said, well, they're not a clean makeup brand. And so I was like, okay, I was like, well, I was trying to explain to them about clean, because, the ingredients and everything. Well, thank God, shout out to Lisa Price was in the room. And they were telling me, oh, it's all the same. The woman who's looking for, she doesn't care. They were basically saying that Black women didn't care, and that they would buy whatever, they deem look good, or whatever the trend is, really what they were saying. And it was like, they don't care about that. They said that to me. And I said, wait, what? And I'm thinking to myself, so then Lisa Price interjected, and I want to tell stories like this so people can understand what happens behind the scenes. Lisa Price interrupted them and said, hold on. No, her brand is totally different from that one. And she explained about ingredients and things like that. And, everybody knows Lisa came from her kitchen and all of that. And just so happened, I had done a collaboration with Lisa where I volunteered. At the time, she used to have her own shops and stuff like that. I volunteered to go around her different shops and do complimentary makeup for her customers, all this thing I did. Thank God I did that. She spoke up for me in that meeting and said, no, it's totally different. This is a natural. She explained it. And I ended up, doing a deal with that company. But the point is this: one, another Black woman spoke up for another Black woman. So just to let y'all know what happens behind the scenes. And number two, they think that we'll buy anything. They don't believe that we care so much and will make those choices. So I do believe that we need to have a radical showing that we won't buy. And I do think that needs to be a part of our future plan.
And let me just
go ahead, Amber.
Yeah, really, because once you are at scale, like the manufacturers, they don't care about anything other than cost. So they're not worried about chemicals and, if it's safe, they want to give you the option of, how you could save costs so that you are able to pay them, the bottom line. So I think a lot of it is, we live in a commerce, country. And so is the thought is not safety first. The thought is, they're worried about the cost of things. And so I have had people come back and tell me, why do you need organic ingredients? It doesn't matter, so you do also have to be able to speak up for yourself and really, stand on your values and your mission of your brand, because if not, you will be talked out of it. And again, they are not, toxicologists. They haven't tested things on their skin. They are just concerned about the bottom line. So, it is a big partly on us, because we can say we're a clean beauty brand, but are you having these conversations with chemists, toxicologists, and your manufacturers? So just want to.
Yep. Thank you for saying that. So we could have a session talking to you guys all day long, and I hope that we're able to do something in person at some point before the end of the year or early next year. But before I go to the next question, Kim, I wanted to touch on something you mentioned about, the Eurocentric look and what we feel like we need to do and present ourselves to have opportunities or just to be accepted. And so you mentioned about skin lightening creams, and just a lot of them, mercury is a key ingredient, and mercury causes all sorts of health issues. It could cause kidney damage. It could cause, nervous system damage. And so again, we think that just because we're buying things off the shelf, that they're safe for us. And especially, I know there are women in the African immigrant community as well as Latin community who buy a lot of these products at flea markets. A lot of these products that they buy, they are reformulated. And it baffles me that any person can buy mercury from off the internet somewhere and then put them in a skincare cream like Pond's or whatever, and then resell it. That's just, I don't understand how that is legal and allowed to happen, but it does happen. And so I just wanted to raise that up a bit, just so that anyone on this call who's considering that product, that please be mindful about some of the ingredients that are in there and what they could potentially do to you when you use them. So just to wrap things up, I would love to hear about at least one product that you would recommend that is yours, that you would recommend for people to use that they just can't live without. Kim, why don't we go to you first?
So I got two. I got butter right
Okay.
here. Butterd. She has a body glaze. She has alternative to Vaseline. A sister that lives here in Washington, D.C. I use her body cream. My whole routine is Black women-owned products made with love. And then I'm going to recommend the Lamique Brow Duo. I think that you should get this. I think you should go to the LamiqueBeauty.com website, take the quiz, and get recommended the right color for you. These are my colors. This is what I wear on my eyebrows. So I think you should do that. And you can read the ingredient label. It reads like, something from your kitchen sink, rice powder and thyme and rosemary and lavender and all these other wonderful things. So definitely I would recommend us going there. But go to LamiqueBeauty.com and try it out. But those are two products that I just got on my desk right now, and I'm like, oh, I use these.
Cool. And then Chris, what Mad Hippie products would you recommend, or any other products that you like? Yeah.
Here, I'll tell you sort of the one too is, first off, you want a gentle cleanser. You want something that will take off the makeup. You want something that will take off the dirt, but maintain your skin mantle. At the end of the day, we want healthy skin, and there's things that your skin naturally produces that you want to maintain. So the cream cleanser is something that I use absolutely every day, 3 times a day. I wash my face 3 times a day, including after the gym. And then our vitamin C serum is just packed full of antioxidants. Vitamin C is a wonderful ingredient that not only hydrates your skin, it's going to brighten your skin and add that glow. I think at the end of the day, in a message I want my daughters to hear is confidence is beauty. And when we are confident in our skin, when we have healthy, hydrated skin, we can do so much. So those are the two products that I absolutely love, is our cream cleanser and our vitamin C.
Great. Kim, somebody's asking, what's the name of the company with the alternative for Vaseline? Because
Oh,
they're
but
also raving about your skin and how beautiful your
thank
skin
you. I'm wearing our custom blend foundation. It's on our website too. Get it customized. Don't look for your foundation, get it custom. The name of the company is Buttered, like butter, and then put apostrophe D. Buttered. The founder is Brittany. Yep, she went viral on TikTok to talking about that alternative to Vaseline.
Great, thank you. And then Amber.
Yes, so I would recommend our Amethyst shampoo, which is basically a deep cleanse, a very clarifying shampoo. A lot of times we're not understanding that, our scalp is the most important part of healthy hair. And so, get that deep cleanse for replenishing your hair. And then also our award-winning bestseller, which is our quartz conditioner, which adds in nutrients, all natural ingredients, vitamin B oils to just kind of replenish your hair. And it actually is great for all different hair types. And a kicker is that you can actually put it in a little bit of water in a spray bottle and also refresh your hair if you have curls or locks or any other style. And I was going to say there are other, alternative sites where you can shop Black-owned, brands. So I would also check those out, Black-owned clean beauty brands as well. So, because I think that people also don't know where to shop. So it could be, skincare, something for their feet that they need is clean. So I would definitely look out for those. I know that the Campaign for Safe Cosmetics has that site. So yeah, those would be mine.
Yes, and we will share some information after the webinar ends as a follow-up about your brands, how they can connect with your brand. And also there is a list of about 80 Black-owned beauty brands that were part of a project that we worked on initially when we first kind of stepped our toes into this space. So we'll share that with everybody also so that we can help support making safer, healthier choices. So I really want to thank you all for taking time out again, for being here today. Thanks for an amazing conversation, and stay on if you can. I know it's Saturday and you may have other things to do, but you can stay on for a few more minutes because we have coming up Marcia Sheldry, and I am going to turn it back over to Sylvie to tell us more about who Marcia is and what she is going to talk about and a little bit about her background. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to share this slide as I read Marcia's bio. Marcia Isabel Chowdhury is the CEO and founder of the Equity and Wellness Collaborative and of counsel at Venture Legal Studios. She brings deep expertise in legal and regulatory compliance, claims substantiation, labeling, and certification for beauty, wellness, and healthcare companies. With a background in lobbying the FDA and Congress, Marcia leverages her experience to assist early-stage startups and well-established companies in navigating complex industries, regulations, and ensuring consumer safety. Thank you so much for being here, Marcia.
Thank you for having me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can, but I'm not seeing you though.
I have my screen on.
Maybe it's just on my end, but forge ahead.
Okay, so thank you for having me. Really excited to be here. I've loved everything I've heard so far. I'm going to talk about what is advocacy. As Sylvie mentioned, I am an attorney and the founder of the Equity and Wellness Collaborative, which is a consulting practice that supports beauty and wellness brands, as well as mission-driven nonprofits in navigating compliance, certification, and advocacy strategy. So I spent the past decade working at the intersection of beauty, health equity, public policy, with a background working in, I currently live in Miami, but I spent 10 years in DC. And I did a lot of policy work and lobbying. And as a result of MILCRA's passage, which I helped bring to fruition, I started my consulting practice on the industry side. So I do have a unique, or I am uniquely positioned to bridge advocacy and industry change. Next slide. So I think Gail touched a little bit on this earlier, and some of our slides may overlap just a bit, but in general, what is advocacy? So when people hear advocacy, they often think about lobbying or testifying. So the higher level, I guess, explicit ways of advocating, I've done those things. So at the core, advocacy is about influencing decisions. So whether that's legislation or regulation or institutional behavior, it's to influence decisions to address harms, for example, with the beauty industry, and push for improved outcomes. So it's how we challenge policies at the highest levels, and then challenge as well the practices that harm us. You can go to the next slide. I would say that you don't need to be a lawyer to be an advocate. I just want to point out a little bit or sort of ground us in my path. So in my own experience, as I mentioned, over the last decade, I've testified before the US Congress. And in particular, my testimony was on how ingredients and products impact Black women and girls. I've testified before the FDA. I've lobbied the entire Energy and Commerce Committee, the committee that oversees FDA regulations, to push for stronger cosmetic laws. Advocacy also includes, especially at the professional level, some of these things, but also, developing coalition, coming together. So advocacy organizations that may have the same interests and the same mission, coming together to focus on one desired outcome or several desired outcomes. So I've written sign-on letters, co-authored policy articles, built campaigns that hold brands and institutions accountable. And I've also spent just as much time working alongside community organizations, educators, now very much so directly in the beauty industry, beauty professionals, beauty founders, brand founders, clean beauty brand founders, because that's where some of this advocacy starts. So it's really exciting work. And my core focus has always been about making sure that the regulatory systems, that the policies, that these things that impact us out and impact our realities are safe, and advocating for safer options. Next slide. So I just wanted to provide a sort of visual, sort of segmenting where advocacy happens. So the different levels. So personal, that looks like switching to verified clean products and even educating on yourself as to what that is. Some of the information we've heard today already highlighted apps that may, or we may get to that at some point, but apps that may be used as tools to be able to look up products. I know it's very frustrating at times to buy a product and then see 100 different chemicals, and there can be some level of concern as to, is this product safe? Is it clean? So there, at a personal level, you can start to, question these products. You can start to learn about different tools and different platforms, even like the California Black Health Network and other advocacy organizations that are doing work to educate us on these things. Then you can shift habits and choose brands, like some of the brands that have talked today about brands that are in the clean space or use ingredients that you may be more interested in using. And then also looking at products that may be certified. There are different certifications that hold products to a higher standards. We know that the FDA doesn't approve products, so even though MOCRA was passed, which was explained earlier by Gail, that, and I'll go into it in a few slides, that only provides a specific amount of protections for certain businesses. And in light of the passage of MOCRA, products don't go through FDA approval, so that's a common misconception. At the community level, an example of advocacy could be, well, what we're doing right now. So hosting a webinar. The California Black Health Network has the Detox Day, or it's, coming out with campaigns and different community efforts to convene and educate the community. Then there's state and federal. So at the state level, you can support different incoming legislation or legislation that's pending. There are ways to do that through looking at the, for example, in California, you can go on the state legislators on the website and you can comment, you can join sign-on letters depending on if you're involved in an organization, a member, or you can make calls directly to your state legislator. And you can do those things at the federal level too. So the FDA puts out notice when they are having a rulemaking period. There's a comment period. There are ways at the state and federal level to which you can engage. So those are the different levels. Next slide. So I want to discuss a little bit about federally what's happening. And this was already mentioned. So of course, there's MOCRA, which is the Modernization of the Cosmetic Regulation Act. So that was passed in 2022. And as I mentioned, in my days in DC, I helped draft some of this language that is now required for certain businesses to comply with. And currently, there are some important requirements that impact brands and manufacturers, from product listing requirements, depending on the size of the company and the revenue of the company. There's some adverse event reporting and consumer protection that had not previously been in place. And then there's mandatory FDA facility registration for certain manufacturers as well. This is a major progress, but it's just the starting point. So we can go to the next slide. So what's still unfolding, and this is, I think, important because this could be a entry point for those that might be interested in advocating. There's still progress under MOCRA. There are several critical rulemakings coming, or that should be coming. There's a rule on fragrance allergen labeling, which is vital because fragrances can still be this gray, or is still a gray area for a lot of products, because the number of chemicals that are in fragrances don't have to be disclosed. So there are going to be some new requirements for brands to comply with in terms of allergens, and that whole process is still in the development phase. There's also going to be some guidance on what counts as safety substantiation. Now, this is more for brands, and it's very important. And then there's also good manufacturing practice for facilities. So there's a GMP rule that would outline basic safety requirements, basic standard operating procedure requirements for companies to follow. So we have a window of opportunity to shape these rules through public comments, also campaigns. And this is a way that you can sort of advocate and give your perspective and voice as these regulations are coming out, and it's an opportunity to reflect the realities of those who are harmed by these products. Next slide. So at the state level, even with MOCRA in place, there's still huge gaps in protections. And we've heard this a few times. I think a few people mentioned the Safer Beauty bill package. So I won't go too much into detail about it, but the package essentially includes several bills that would ban high-risk chemicals like PFAS, mercury, and formaldehyde. Also require full disclosure of fragrance, which I just mentioned, and flavor ingredients. Also provide protection for salon workers and communities of color, which are, as we've seen and heard and know, disproportionately impacted by chemicals in cosmetics. Also, the bill would increase transparency in the supply chain, which is heavily needed. And then this package, it goes beyond MOCRA, and it centers health justice and racial equity. And I think that's very important in terms of legislation. I mean, a lot of the work that I've done in my own lobbying was literally highlighting how this impacts specific communities. And when you're talking about, as Kim mentioned, having Black women in certain spaces, it really is important, because I remember lobbying and being literally the only representative in the room to highlight how our communities are impacted, or being the only one that looks like me highlighting and talking about how the chemicals in cosmetics impact consumers. And so this bill needs public support, and these bills haven't been passed yet. So a way to advocate is, of course, connect with some of the advocacy groups like California Black Health Network. There are other consumer advocacy groups that are pushing for this bill. If you even Google the Safer Beauty bill package, you'll see some information come up and ways that you can support it. So there's also the Crown Act, which many of you have probably heard, and thank you. Next slide. That's another major policy tied to beauty justice, which would essentially ban hair discrimination across the US. So currently, over 20 states have passed this version of the law, but it's not a federal bill. And that is really important. It's passed the House, but it's stalled at the Senate. So there's also some advocacy effort that we could be doing to bring attention and education to the Crown Act and hopefully get it passed at the federal level as well. So advocating is absolutely part of beauty justice work. Next slide. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth into certain California policy opportunities, given California is just ahead of the curve in terms of legislation regarding chemicals of concern in cosmetics. And so we have two major bills to support. And if you want to look this up, write this down. Also, I'll include my information at the end of the deck. So for those who want to get in touch, there's AB 823, which would ban microplastics in personal care and cleaning products. And I know we've all heard of microplastics and how the particles end up in our water, blood, breast milk, everywhere. There's also the SB 682, which would phase out PFAS, forever chemicals, which also can be found in everything, literally, from foundations to floss to just everything, and have been linked to horrible health diseases and issues. And so supporting these bills in California could help build momentum for changes in other states. And it also sends a message to the industry. And so I'm just highlighting these as other ways to possibly support and make the push for state level change, which, as we've seen, is a bit more, well, definitely more progressive than federal change, which can take longer. Next slide. And then I want to take a moment to connect this work to this broad conversation we've been having, and then often another term that we hear, which is sustainability. So in this industry, sustainability is frequently just mentioned in terms of packaging or surface level marketing claims. But the reality is true sustainability is systemic. It's about building safer, transparent supply chains, which was mentioned, and it's also reducing exposure to harmful or potentially harmful ingredients. And this impacts consumers, it impacts workers, which some of the legislation I've mentioned is specifically looking to protect. And it's not just about the point I wanted to make, it's not just about packaging, and it's not just a term, and it does tie and sort of, it's this thread that goes through every level of the industry. And it's also public health issues. Communities of color, we've seen, are disproportionately exposed not only to certain beauty products and personal care products, but also there's other environmental hazards that, complicate or elevate the exposure. And so when we advocate for ingredient safety, for clear labeling, for equitable enforcement through legislation, we're not just protecting individual users, we're protecting families, we're protecting Black women and girls, and we're pushing for systems that center long-term health, environmental health, integrity, and racial equity. And so what can you do? We've seen and talked about this a lot. It really starts with education. And educating, thank you, educating others in your circle. So the insights that you received from this program today and this discussion, share it with your friends. I know I sent this webinar to my family, so that's where it starts, like I said, at the personal level. You can also talk to brands. I mean, you can reach out to brands. You can ask brands, you can talk to beauty professionals, so salons. You can talk to your braider before they braid your hair, like ask about the product that they're using. When you're purchasing products at retailers, ask about the product, research the brands that you're buying as well. And then also there's another level of sharing your personal story. And I think somebody mentioned this about someone going viral, sharing their personal story on social media. And in today's media, that's a pretty common level of advocacy. People sharing, there have been whole campaigns of people sharing stories with issues they've had with certain products or products that they love. And so that's something that can also shift the culture and also apply pressure as well. And then there's partnering. So partner with California Black Beauty Movement, CBHN, and local organizations that are working to take collective action. So this webinar is, it was about 2 hours or so, but there's more work that is going to be done after this, and you can always stay engaged, subscribe, keep up to date with what different campaigns are going on to push this work. And then lastly, advocate for policies that protect Black women, girls, and families, and safer products. So I mentioned some of the legislation that's happening in California currently, and then some of the legislation that is to come under MOCRA. And so those are several ways that you can participate. So thank you for listening. And I don't know if I'm the last speaker, but I'm happy to sort of come in after and sort of help put this all together, put it in context for what people can do to really continue to push this work. If you'd like to stay in touch, collaborate, or follow up with questions, my contact information is up here. I have my email, website, and business Instagram. There is a lot ahead, and I think the more we stay connected and coordinate, the more impact we can have.
I think we answered all the questions in the chat, but thank you, Marcia. And Sylvie will wrap it up and bring it home for us.
Yeah, so just one second, everybody. I'm gonna come back on camera. All right, hi again. Thank you so much for hanging on. I know that there's a lot of places you can be, so it's really wonderful that you're continuing to be here with us. I just wanted to share a little bit about how we're aiming to ignite the conscious Black beauty movement, and I also want to go back and refer to those apps, the app that we had talked about, Marsha had alluded to, and how you can continue to get involved in our next steps. So our goal and objective is to spread the beauty truth to 300,000 Black women and girls across California. So to do this, we need community action. We need those things that Marcia and Karina and Gail were sharing about how to get involved. So how can you help? So the first thing that we hope you would be interested in doing is hosting your own training. So we're on a mission to educate 750 Black women about toxic chemicals found in personal care products, much like we have done today. And we need your help because with your help, we can reach spaces and places beyond our own reach virtually or in our own neighborhoods in Los Angeles, where Rhonda and I are both located at. So with your help, we would love to expand and gain access to sharing and spreading the beauty truth, and also give you the autonomy and capacity to be a voice for change and do that advocacy work in your own community. So we've created a Conscious Black Beauty Movement toolkit, which you can scan this QR code, but of course we'll share that with you after our meeting today. And we also created a template to host your own training. So you may recognize this slide. It's the same slide as the beginning of today's presentation because we really wanted to take the information that we are sharing, the bones of it, and have a template for you to share with your community members and shift around and change up however feels best for you so that you can really spread the beauty truth in a way that feels authentic to you. So as we said, we encourage you to integrate different images, ideas, and icebreakers, and maybe even things throughout this presentation that felt really important, really made you feel like you needed to say or do something that you can spread to the people in your life. So also, as we were just, or Marcia had shared, we're hoping that the next step of the Conscious Black Beauty Movement is to host beauty detox days, which would involve a very much similar approach of hosting an educational training within salons, because Gail had said, or like Gail had said rather, people who are occupationally using products that or toxic chemicals, it doesn't even have to be a product. Think about people who work with harmful chemicals for a job, or maybe are firefighters. Those toxic chemicals that they're exposed to are likely at higher volumes, and hair salons and hairdressers and people who work in beauty salons in general may also be being exposed to higher levels of these chemicals. So something you can do to get involved is nominate maybe your favorite salon or the place that you go the most that you want to spread this information to. Or maybe you can take the initiative to engage your salon in this type of training. And you're not in it alone. We're here too. If you are interested in engaging a salon that you have a relationship with, we're always here to help you do that. So that is a beauty detox day. And we also hope that you can stay engaged. So we have a Conscious Black Beauty Movement Facebook group that you'll receive the links to join and continue the conversation. Share whatever you'd like to share in that group. You can sign up for the mailing list and also visit the Conscious Black Beauty Movement page. And before I go through the key takeaways, I'm going to stop my share really quickly so I can go back and tell you about the app that we were hoping to highlight. So bear with me. Thank you, everyone.
And by the way, while Sylvie's doing that, I just wanted to say you can download this app from Google Play Store as well as the Apple Store.
Yeah. So just 1 second. Okay. So we wanted to share this app called, hold on. So sorry, everyone. The thing about PowerPoint is that sometimes it just has a mind of its own. All right. So we wanted to share this application called Clearia with you. There are quite a few apps like this. This one is
We're not able to see the
I
screen
know,
though.
I'm just
Okay.
about to share it. This one is helpful because of the way that the information is shared with this highlighted function. So basically, the app is downloadable from the App Store, Google Play, or you can add it to your Chrome. If you use Google Chrome, you can add it as an extension. So there's 2 steps to it. Either you search up a product on Amazon, iHerb, Sephora, Target, or Walmart, or you can upload a photo of the ingredient list of the product in hand. So you have to make sure. So for example, I have this, you probably can't see. You have to make sure you incorporate the whole ingredient list in the photo so that you can get an accurate response. And what they'll do, or what the app will do, is highlight the harmful chemicals using color coordination, which is really helpful because much like a stop sign, red means no, do not use it. Yellow means maybe learn some more about it, and green means it's all good. So there are some levels, and you can take that as an opportunity to be an advocate for yourself, use it as a self-advocacy tool to decide what's good and what's bad for your own, cabinet. So to download that, you can scan the QR code, and we will also share more information in the chat, or rather after the event. So let me go back to the final slides. Again, thank you for being patient. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen again. So ultimately, we want to thank you for taking part in our event today and reiterate the key takeaways of the event. First of all, learning about harmful chemicals in beauty products is the first step to combating beauty injustice. So you've already taken a big step into being a beauty truth advocate. Second of all, collective action is necessary to drive change for industry standards. And 3, you have the tools and education needed to educate your own communities and spread the beauty truth. So if you would not mind, it would be of great help for us to know how we did, and also know what we can include in future trainings if you're able to take this survey. And I will share the survey link with you right now as well. Just give me one moment. But if you have your phone, you can scan the QR code, and we will take this very much to heart. In the QR code, or rather in the survey as well, we will ask you if you are interested in taking part in your own event or creating your own event. And it would be really wonderful if you have the capacity, even within a few friends, to do that, because every person that we educate is one more person who understands the importance of the work that we're doing. So thank you so much. And I just sent it in the chat, and Firstly, before we get to that, I just want to say thank you so much to our speakers and panelists, some of whom had to hop off, but again, this work would not be possible without everybody working together and the amazing trailblazing that these individuals are doing. So thank you so much. And if you want to connect with CBHN further, you can follow us on socials. All of our socials besides YouTube is your CBHN, and YouTube is California Black Health Network. So please feel free to follow along, especially I recommend for the beauty justice work that we're doing, we're hoping to just do more and more activations in person. So follow along to see if you'll be able to join in. And if you have questions, please feel free to email me. Again, my name is Sylvie and I am program coordinator here. This is my email, and I'm always, much like somebody said I think Gail said at the top, like, I promise I'll respond. So yeah, please feel free to email me if you have any questions. And with that, I just want to say thank you so much for your time, especially on a Saturday. Again, I say there's a lot of places you can be, and it's really wonderful that you're here with us. So with that, I wish you a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to connecting with you again in the future.
Yeah,
And
thank you, everybody. Thanks again for coming. Thank you to all the amazing speakers and presenters today. So enjoy the rest of Freedom Weekend. Hopefully all get out and do something to celebrate ourselves, not just for Juneteenth, but ourselves and being here and healthy. Yeah, thank you. Have a great weekend.